Hi, thank you for joining me today. Narcissists have many tactics that they use to manipulate, belittle, devalue, and use for their benefit. Today, I want to talk about how and why the narcissist uses comparison against their child, in hopes that by bringing understanding, it will help us to move past it. If you like my content, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. In narcissistic families, the roles become reversed. The focus and attention is put on the narcissistic parent instead of on their children, and these children are expected to meet the needs of the parent. There are a couple different reasons and ways the narcissist parent benefits from using comparison as a weapon against the child. Using comparison in situations can be extremely damaging. For example, if you think about Beethoven, he was composing music by the age of 12 and was a working musician by the age of 14. If you were to compare yourself to him and think about what you were doing at the age of 12, it might leave you feeling extremely down about yourself. Comparison can be one of the fastest ways to destroy your self-esteem. A healthy, genuine parent's role is to show their child that they are loved, worthy, and accepted by their existence alone, and then guide and support the child to help develop who they are as an individual. The child in a narcissistic home does not have access to this type of support and love. Horton and Sedekai's 2010 found that narcissists are interested in protecting their ego and superiority, engaging in self-protection strategies when they think an individual is threatening. And Festinger in 1954 suggests that narcissists use comparison as part of their pursuit of admiration. The grandiose narcissist tends to make downward comparisons in order to raise their self-esteem. When using it against a child, they are basically using the child as a stepping stool to protect their ego. On the other side, the vulnerable narcissist may use comparison to come across as a victim, because this is normally the story they like to portray. Or they're jealous of what the child has. So maybe if the child shows vulnerability, sweetness, or love, that can make a narcissistic parent jealous because it's something they don't have and are threatened by it. The narcissistic parent doesn't tend to have empathy for their child's suffering, only for their own suffering, and they tend to want their child to fight for their approval and attention. It's not something that is freely given. Comparison can give the narcissist parent control by weakening the emotional and mental strength of the child, which is emotional and mental abuse. The sad part is that the child is easy to manipulate, and they don't typically understand that they're being manipulated. What they're seeing is that they're not good enough in the parent's eyes, chipping away at their already damaged self-esteem and introducing them to shame, envy, and regret. How does the child protect themselves from abuse they can't recognize? The parent may devalue the child to the point where the child is withdrawn and quiet, and then compare the child again for being too quiet and withdrawn, saying, "Why can't you be more like so-and-so? They're not quiet." Again, minimizing the child. The narcissist may use comparison to make the child jealous, maybe comparing them to a sibling, as a strategy to get the child to work harder to gain their love and affection, again, feeding into the parent's ego. By being compared to their siblings, this could end up pinning them against each other. So not only do they have an inability to connect to their parent, they may also have a hard time connecting to their siblings, leaving them thinking they are alone. Another part to this for the narcissist is they may tend to see the child as an extension of themselves. So they may have a hard time accepting their perceived imperfections. They may see their child's imperfections as a reflection of themselves, as though it's a sign of weakness within the parent. And seeing weakness within themselves isn't something they tend to be able to tolerate because they can't stand to look bad. This child doesn't have a chance to make a healthy connection to this parent, and yet this is what the child is fighting for, until maybe eventually realizing it's unattainable and they stop fighting for it. The child is already beat up and devalued in the narcissistic home, and by throwing in comparisons, it adds to the child's feeling that they aren't good enough, and now they need to do better. At this point, the child might start self-blaming, thinking if only they were better, or only if they did X, Y, and Z, then their parents would love them. This can follow the child into adulthood with their jobs and relationships, with the thinking, if only I did this, then I would be loved. They may feel that relationships are conditional, with only conditional love or conditional acceptance. Comparison lacks love, and a lack of love can lead to pain and misery, leaving the child feeling depressed, depleted, inferior, wanting to withdraw and hide. These children may tend to grow up with depression and are more likely to harm themselves. This may also contribute to the child starting to lose themselves. When the child is feeling unaccepted within the family, they tend to hide their true self, and this can stop the child from being grateful for who they are and stop them from developing the gifts that they have. Being the child of a narcissist can mean that they end up carrying the parent's baggage of trauma that the parent doesn't know how to process, cope, or heal from, and it's projected onto them. Sometimes passing it along by teaching it, passing it down to the next generation. The parent is saying, here, I can't carry this. You carry it so that I can feel better. These tactics are hard for the child to see and understand, and a lot of the times, the child will be confused as to if the parent loves them or not. When we gain understanding around the whys and hows, it can give us a perspective that may help us move through it and past it, realizing that this abuse was never actually because of the child, because they weren't good enough. It didn't have anything to do with the child at all, and it did have everything to do with the parents' insecurities and their projections of their insecurities. This is a mental health disorder. Having wisdom around it can be like seeing the situation from a higher viewpoint, recognizing it for what it is and moving through the pain, detaching from it. Also being able to see it when others are comparing for their ego, knowing what it is. Helping us to put up healthy, strong boundaries and for it to not affect us the same way that it used to. Everyone's situations are different. I hope this helps. Feel free to leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I love you all.